Hey everyone, welcome back to Keep the Community Fed podcast. This is episode 10.
What?
I know,
Wow.
amazing. Um, you are all in for a very special treat. We have a amazing guest and we're going to talk about all things Taste of White Center. But first, um, some folks making this podcast possible. We've got Randy Wynn doing video production. He is our marketing and community engagement coordinator.
Episode 10, let's go.
And then sound production, our development and communications director, Jefferson Rose.
Hey. Yeah, episode 10, here we go.
And my fabulous co-host.
Hey, everybody. I'm Gabbi Gonzales. I'm the co-chair for the White Center Food Bank Board.
And then I'm Carmen Smith. I'm the executive director at White Center Food Bank. And we have Robert Fuentes.
Hey, Robert.
Hi.
Our development and events coordinator. Yay. So, we're excited to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Excited to be here.
Robert joined the team November 2023. Can't wait to talk more about that and that experience right before the move. But it's been an honor to have you on staff. We feel so blessed and so lucky that you decided to join our team. Just thinking back on the interview process and getting to talk with you a little bit during that, it was like you were just like the right fit. Jefferson and I like touch base after, and it was like, yes, he is the one. It just your vibe, like you bring so much to the team. You complement the White Center Food Bank team so well and the development team so well. So we're so lucky to have you and glad that you're joining us for this podcast.
Thank you for those kind words. I'm glad to know the feeling goes both ways. I definitely feel blessed and happy to be a part of the team and having been able to join. It's been really nice.
Yay. Does anybody else want to say really nice things about Robert?
I'll say a story. Yeah, I'll go next. So, my first interaction with you, I don't know if you remember, but right around that time, we were going through transitions on the board. And so we were having some one-on-one conversations with board members. And Carmen had brought you along for one of the conversations, and I hadn't met you yet. So I was understanding who you were. And she shared that you were new staff in your role. And I was like, great, come sit down. Like, it doesn't matter who you are within the organization or the community, like we'll have these conversations with everybody. And so I felt like this connection to you and like the point of view that you shared in that conversation. And I know how lucky we are to have you as a part of the team. And so like that conversation in a way is kind of like this podcast where we're like bringing out things that typically nonprofits have happen like behind closed doors. So I'll always like hang on to that memory.
I also hang on to that memory. I definitely felt like, maybe I was in a conversation that was above my pay grade, but I really appreciated you opening up the floor and asking me my perspective on something and then accepting that perspective as my own. It was, a daunting conversation to have with the board member on my first week, but it was also something that I do cherish, and it means a lot.
Cool.
Well, Robert's first impression of me is probably very questionable. The first time I met Robert, the first thing I asked him was, "When's your birthday?" And he was very shook. He's
my
like,
God.
"Why did you ask me
shook?
that?"
You did?
And yeah, told me his birthday, and I told him, "Yep, I guess I'm still the youngest one at the food bank." So,
Oh, that was the
So-
reason.
Is that story more about you or him?
Robert still makes fun of me about it, so it goes both ways.
You thought he was asking because of your sign?
No, I think
Oh.
I knew what he was trying to go for because he was the youngest
Mm.
member, and I was like, oh, he's looking to place me on the totem pole. Maybe I'm the young guy. I'm not the new guy. I'm the young guy, and it was fun to catch him on it because I have a bit of a baby face, and I never definitely looked young and naive my first week.
Being like the youngest one in an organization for a while, I feel like the youngest one is always trying to stay the youngest. And so I totally know what Randy was trying to do there.
For sure. Like being the youngest of 4 siblings, like I feel that energy
We
in a
have
different way.
we have talked about
Yes.
youngest sibling
We
energy on the
was
podcast.
that last episode?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't really know where to start in terms of how to say how much I value having Robert on the team. He joined at a really pivotal moment for the organization and filled a role that, in terms of supporting our events and supporting um, the goal to kind of recognize our donors in the way that we want to share equally our gratitude to all donors, not just, the big donors, but everyone. And the systems that Robert has created and the way that he's navigated permitting and, bookings of the different things we need for events. He does it with grace and patience and um, just a really great attitude along the way. So we're very lucky to have you, and we're very lucky to have you here today as our guest for episode 10. Amazing.
And I do want to say something, and then you'll get your own chance to talk about yourself. But I think, you being willing to have those hard conversations immediately, like it says more about your character than anything else. And like, I wouldn't, I would never think of you, even when you first started or now or at any point, as like young and naive. I mean, you know, you have good genes, so that's great. But I think you're eager. You're so eager to learn, and you really lean into curiosity, which I think is really important for this organization, but in any role in like any facet in life. So I think it says a lot about who you are as a person and as a team member.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. So, were you going to say something? Oh, okay. So, tell the listeners about you. Tell us about your background, how you found the food bank, what made you want to work here, and then if you want to sprinkle in what meal reminds you of home too.
That's a lot. Okay.
That's a loaded,
I'll
long
help.
question.
So, my name is Robert. I like to start there. I I come from a mixed race background. I come from a family that went through a divorce when I was very young. So I grew up in 2 households, both of them being mixed culture homes. And when I was about 10 years old, my father, my sisters, and my stepmother all moved up here with me to Seattle, and we settled in West Seattle. And within a year or so, my dad started to realize like, oh, this is a small town. It's nothing like Los Angeles, and people know each other here, and there's a actual way to be a part of your community and have an impact because you know your neighbors, because you know the people that are serving you at the restaurant or cutting your hair at the barber shop. You know the kids walking around because you see them come and go from places. And as a part of that, he started looking into what organizations he could be a part of, and he ended up becoming part of the Delridge Neighborhood Development Association, the DNDA. And at that time, their major focus at the time was to try to bring more produce options to Delridge. Delridge is one of the largest food deserts in the West Seattle area. And it's really frustrating because there are a handful of grocery stores that are, about a mile away, but it's a mile uphill. It's a mile that you can't get on a bus. And so there was a lot of changes to try to bring produce to local like bodegas, gas stations. So if you go down Delridge now, there's still those options available at some of the gas stations and marts and stuff, and that was helped by the DNDA. And the food that they sourced was from local pea patches. And, as a kid, I'm getting to know all this information as my dad's living through it, and I'm made aware of food deserts. I'm made aware of food insecurity issues. While it's not something that I necessarily had to struggle with in my own life, it is something that I recognize that others have had to struggle with. And nothing frustrates me more than hypocrisy or a situation that seems to be easily solved through kindness or just being a human to one another. So food security has always been something that has mattered a lot to me. And about 2 years ago, my friend Joey, who works here, he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I know you've been looking for work, and I know you have a wealth of customer service experience, which is something that they're looking for. I think you should apply for this position at the food bank. I think you would be a great fit." And you know, at the time, I was working just a customer service job and really finding myself stuck just solving the same problems every day, as opposed to working on projects or having anything to kind of show for my work at the end of the year. And the idea of event planning became kind of like a fun idea because I was like, oh, I will have a bit of a metered, work life where I'll have a project that I can aim towards, and then I'll have another project I can aim towards, and I'll have something that I can look back on and go, I did this. This is something I did with my work. So I applied, and I felt like it was something that was well beyond my abilities at the time, just because I had no experience in a nonprofit world. I had no experience doing large-scale event planning like the Taste of White Center or a fall fundraiser. Most of my event planning had been very localized to an apartment building I was a concierge for, or some small shindigs, but it was never anything that felt to this scale. And it was something where I was like, I think I can do this. I have the skill sets for most of this other stuff. I can learn on the go. Permitting, I can learn. I can learn, vendors. Those are all just getting to know people and making those connections. Those aren't really, big ideas or big problems to try to solve. So I figured it was something that I could apply myself to. And I'm happy that I did because it's been exactly what I was looking for. Something where there's a project to work on, something where there's good that comes from it, and working with a team of people that is all focused on the same goal, which is helping community. I think back to my first month here. We were planning on a move to this location, to our brand new building, and I think this was like my second team meeting, and the discussion was, how do we make sure that our customers have access to food in the month of December, and what is the very last date that we could possibly do service here and then still plan and perform the move? And the voices that I heard it felt like it was getting heated. But what I noticed was everybody was arguing towards the same goal. It was like, how can we make sure that our customers are the happiest? And that's where the contention was, as opposed to, no, we can't do it, or we're not doing anything, or one side saying let's not do anything, and one side let's do it all the way. It was somewhere in the middle, and knowing that I just joined a team where that was the argument, and it wasn't really an argument. It was just very passionate wants and desires to help. And I felt that I was at home at that moment. I was like, this is the kind of team that I want to work for, because I want to be able to come to them with a problem and go, this is my goal, and know that, oh, we have similar goals. Let's try to figure out the best way to get there. And over the past year and a half, it's been that way. Working with Jefferson, working with Mike, with yourself. And I come with these problems, or I come with a question, and a solution is found, maybe not at that moment, but a conversation occurs and a solution is found. So it's very rewarding in that way. Oh, food, that reminds me of home. That I was actually having a conversation with Jefferson about that today. I remember, and I have stated before, it is pozole, and I still think that'll be my answer today. But it's
Love it.
because it reminds me of home. It reminds me of family. But there's a lot of meals and food that remind me of childhood or remind me of growing up. And over my break last week, somebody was cooking some food, and I was like, "Oh, what are you cooking? It smells like when I was a kid." And it was just fried tomatoes with rice and chicken, but it reminded me so much of something my mom used to make, that I felt myself kind of go back. And that question, what food reminds you of home? It's a the day that you ask me, I might have a different answer. But I think that pozole is true to my heart. That's what my family would probably say as well, and that's really the biggest family meal that we'll do.
First of all, yum.
Yes.
Um, can we back like way up?
Yeah, I'm so
No, you're totally
you're
fine.
perfect.
Yes, you are perfect. Hearing you talk about like coming into the food bank, it made me think a lot. Like, I can relate to your story a lot. A piece of my story is doing special events as well and coming from like a customer service background. And I think sometimes it's a combination of things like society, our own like narrative in our head, maybe what our parents or other people have told us, make us think that we're like not worthy or need some sort of like educational benchmark to enter a profession. And one of the things that's awesome about the White Center Food Bank, I think nonprofits, I think some government has it, is like they'll see something in you and like let you come in. Because special events is a completely teachable skill, right? It's like literally following a process and then doing what you do best is like adding in like community voice and your ideas, right? And then producing this event. I think I really am inspired by your answer to that question, and really like it was exciting to hear some more of the background. I did know some of that, but kudos to food bank staff for like seeing that in you and opening the door for you, and then kudos for you once you got in, just like boots on the ground learner is a thing. Like, that is so many people. And so good for you for hitting the ground, running and learning. And just in like the conversation we were having before the podcast, which I'm sure we'll get into, reflecting, you're like already reflecting on things that you've been through and how like the learning lessons and then ideas for next year. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you know, job applying for jobs is scary enough, and then like hiring for or to fill a position is also challenging. And I think something we've worked really hard is to do is making sure we're hiring for like a good organizational culture fit. And like, we knew those customer service skills would apply. Like, you can teach someone special events. Like you said, it's like relationship building. I mean, most of our jobs is probably based on relationship building, right? And like the donor cultivation, and that is also relationship building. Like, that's kind of customer service in a way, but different too. And it's like, I think on both sides, like sometimes being able to see those skills that are applicable like gets lost sometimes. And I mean, I don't know if we've talked about your journey on the podcast, but it was kind of similar, right? Like, no development background, but you had this relationship building background, Jefferson. And it was like those skills apply. Like, you can teach somebody fundraising, you can teach somebody special events, like especially if they're a good culture fit, and then they have these other skills that are more than applicable. And it's been such a joy to see you on your journey here at the food bank, and especially thinking about the Taste of White Center, right? Like your biggest event of the year, probably, and just last year, how much it had grown from the previous year, and then this year too. Like, I mean, you're doing an incredible job, but I think it is so important as like a hiring manager, right? To be able to see what's on someone's resume and then getting their vibe too, and being like, oh yeah, you can do this. You can absolutely do this.
Yeah, job seeking is always a daunting process, especially given that I never completed college. I have some community college experience, but had to I had to pay for rent. I had to pay for my bills, and realizing, okay, well, I should just work a full-time job to be able to meet those needs. Meet those needs. Um, you start to develop this idea in your head that you're not good enough to apply for things that require college experience. You're not good enough, or people aren't going to respect you or your resume because you have only a high school diploma, or you only have X, Y, or Z. But something my father always taught me was look at your resume, look at the things that you're doing, and really extrapolate on that. Like, what is it actually that you're doing? Customer service. Okay, you are, processing paperwork. You're talking with people. You're having hard conversations. Like, these are things that, while you can't really put all of that on a resume, you should be able to talk about it in an interview. So I've been very blessed to, with that, at least that perspective, that like you should just go in fighting. You should go in with what you have, and hope for the best, because who knows who might give you the chance, who might see the vibe, who might understand what you have to offer is more than what's on paper.
That's exactly right. And I think as your career progresses, you'll find that customer service skills is exactly what's needed to supervise staff as well.
Well, and not to get too far into the weeds on my work history, but I have been a concierge manager before. Customer service I use as like a wide branching term, but there was 10 years of work experience, slowly making my way up that chain until COVID, when I was like, you know what, I don't think I can handle this intensive hard conversations day after day after day, and that started a whole that I mean, we can go into it, but basically, I decided to quit my job back in I want to say 2022. Moved to California, where my dad was living at the time, and to go back to school. Because in my head was thinking I need to have college experience, but I also wanted to do film, and figured, hey, LA would be a great spot to do it. Only was down there for about 8 months before my father suddenly passed away, and I didn't have any connections in LA, didn't have any support systems. And I just was like, I'll just come home. I'll just come back to Seattle and try to make it work, try to figure out what my path would look like. And in those first few months of coming back to Seattle, that's when I met Joey. And that's when I get to know this person who did not even realize would have such an impact on my life. But the trajectory that I went down, it's really, I feel like I've been saved a little bit to be here, because it's just so far outside of what I thought I'd be doing 2 years ago. Just wasn't on my radar, wasn't on my vision plan or my vision board or whatever. It's just something that kind of dropped in my lap, but it's been such a great fit.
And sometimes things work out better than we plan for, we imagine, and um, you did that. You made space for yourself here. Like, you came in fighting for yourself, right? Like, taking those words of wisdom, and like you made space for yourself here. So
I appreciate the, but again, I think it's a two-way street, right? I try to make space for myself, but when I was trying to make space, it was already there. I haven't, I came in strong. I've had, some funny conversations with Jefferson where he's like, pump the brakes a little bit. You're really intense. You're really into this, but just take a breath. And slowly kind of understanding personalities and things like that, working our way through it. But that space was created for me as Jefferson understood. Oh, okay, I don't know that I can turn down Robert. Maybe from a 10 to a 9, but that's about as far as I can get him. But meeting me there, and and finding ways to communicate, different ways for me to perceive something has been very, very kind. Yeah.
that's what a good supervisor does. Way to go, Jefferson.
It's easy to supervise Robert. He's a rock star.
Should we talk about the Taste of White Center now?
Let's do it.
Or should we talk about other things and then?
We can talk about Taste of White Center. Where do you want to start?
Well, I could start, I guess. Gosh, the first year was 2022.
Carmen, what is the Taste of White Center for those that don't know?
Oh, the Taste of White Center is an amazing community event hosted and presented by White Center Food Bank. to bring community together around food, of course, but really featuring all of the deliciousness in White Center. So there's usually 30 some restaurants that participate, and something unique about our event is, well, a couple of things, but we pay the participating restaurants a stipend to cover their food and labor costs. And then something else that's different from a lot of the other kind of food tasting events is that you go into the restaurants rather than like having like a little table with like a hot plate or whatever. Um, and we get to close down downtown White Center and have all sorts of different activities for kids and adults. And people get to just walk around and eat their way through White Center, which is like one of my favorite pastimes. Did I catch everything?
I think so.
Okay. So the first year was 2022. Jefferson started in December 2021, but I think like a taste event isn't necessarily like a unique or like like there's a bunch of events like that around the city. Like a lot of other neighborhoods host one. There's, of course, the big one in downtown Seattle. And I think I had gone to one in like 2019. My sister was in town or something, and we had went to one, and I was like, it would be cool to do that in White Center. And I think, originally I was thinking like, oh, we could have it at this one space, like at the Eagles or something, and restaurants could have tables, and it would be like that. And, then 2020 happened, and we were just stretched way too thin, and there was like no way that with our staffing levels at that time that could pull anything like that off. And so when Jefferson started, I kind of like floated that idea by him, and he's like, that's so cool. And he got to noodle on it. And also because of the pandemic and like the fires in downtown White Center, it was like really important to us to make sure that um we weren't being an extractive charity model, but we were really working in solidarity with the neighborhood. And so it's like, okay, can we somehow at least try to alleviate the costs for the restaurants? Because like also being, in community with a lot of the restaurants too, they were like sharing with us like what they were experiencing too, like higher food costs, higher labor costs, like everything is hard, right? And so it's like, okay, how can we make this happen and check all of these things um off our list, like our high needs, right? Paying the restaurants, of course, getting people to come out, like making it community focused, and of course, like a little fundraiser for the food bank. And so Jefferson came up with the idea to just like, what if we just like let the restaurants cook in their kitchens? Like they get to basically cook in their home, and they don't have to like try and prep things and then reheat them or whatever. Um and you kind of just ran with it and was like, let's just do it. And we didn't close down the street or anything, and it was like, it was so fun, but it was kind of like chaos. It was, I don't know.
We didn't know what was going to happen,
Yeah.
so we didn't shut down. We just set up 3 tables in different places in White Center to sell tickets. We didn't know if people were going to come, and it it was super successful. We weren't planning it as a fundraiser. It's more of activating the community
Yeah.
and really like
Okay.
giving back to the restaurants and the downtown community that support. The feedback was like, this needs to happen more often, and from the restaurants as well. And I think my favorite comment from the first one was from White Center resident who said, I've lived here 20 years and I go to my 3 restaurants. I'd never tried anything else except for the 3 restaurants that I've gone for ever. And today I got to try 5 different restaurants and now I have 8 restaurants. Now I have different places that I can support and it just was really a really cool thing to activate the community kind of clandestinely without, we didn't we didn't really in a way besides not, you know, when you're not shutting down the street, we just like set up some tables and made it happen. But and then it was like, okay, let's do it for real. And that's when we started activating the whole neighborhood and blocking off the streets and now it's just grown to what it is today.
Well, I remember some conversation in 2022 or like leading into the first event around like we are at a spot and we're about to move into downtown White Center. Like how do we want to build a relationship with the neighbors, knowing that we're going to bring this food bank that has like sometimes negative connotations that go along with it. And so like how do we like build that deep relationship so they're ready to welcome us when we do come here?
That too.
Yeah.
It was all about building community.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what we do in our events, I think. But that first one in particular was really let's activate downtown and let people know that we exist and we're here.
As a participant at the first one, and I don't think I volunteered at the first one, but I did partake. I thought it was really fun. Was it really wild? Maybe I was stuck like in different restaurants while like the sidewalks filled up, but I remember it being a really good
I
time.
I mean, it was like wild in a good way because it was the first time we were like, just figuring it out. Like a lot of things that happened on the fly that were like, okay, we have to like pivot and adjust. Um, but it all around really good and something that I really uh one of my memories from that first event is like I just stopped to talk to somebody on the street that had a map and I was like, "How did you hear about it?" And they were like, "Well, we were just driving by and we saw all these people out and so we thought we had to see what was going on and we've ate at like 3 new restaurants that we didn't even know were here. Like this is so fun." And I just love seeing people like trying to like use their little maps to like figure out where the restaurants were. It was really, really sweet.
Yeah, and I think the way that it's grown has been so organic. That first year, also convincing the restaurants to participate was a challenge because they're like, "Wait, the food bank is gonna pay us?" Like they did. It was they everybody thought that we were coming in and asking for a donation, but it's no, we're gonna use sponsorship dollars to pay you to make 100 plates of food. And then some of them didn't really even truly believe it until we showed up with the check. It's like, okay, I guess I am going to participate. So, but then, it's always a challenge to get the menu items and the restaurants all on board. But now it's become just kind of part of the culture. Every summer we're going to have a Taste of White Center. So,
Yeah, and something else that um was important to us that we've been able to carry through for 4 years was like to make sure that it was low barrier to participate. So $5 ticket gets you one bite at one restaurant. And so even if like all you have is $5, you can still, come through and try a new place or go to your favorite place even. And the restaurants always tend to be very generous.
Uh-huh.
$5 is a steal for the size of portions you can get at some of these restaurants.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, just the fact that we've kind of kept it that same price for the last 4 years, I think has been really special and probably maybe drove more of that interest for this year. Um, yeah, but I think once word of mouth got out, like, because even after the first one, people were like, "Are you doing this again, like, very soon?" And we're like, "No, no." And then 2023, we closed, that was the first year we closed the street, and we were still figuring all of that out. Didn't have, like, did we have music that year?
We had a DJ, but we
Yeah,
didn't have a kids area. We didn't have vendors, so it felt a little empty.
it did. Yeah.
And so, people were, that was like, in terms of the comments that we received from the community, was like, it'd be cool if there was more stuff going on, because with White Center Pride and
Yeah.
some other events, the White Center Block Party, there was just, the whole street was activated. And so, over the last couple of years, we've really been able to develop it. And who knows, next year there's going to be even more.
That's the hope.
Yeah. And then 2024, so year 3, your first year, seeing all the different activities and like seeing all the people in the street, like last year, I think I teared up just like taking a moment to look at how it had grown and what an excellent job you had done doing, like, pretty much before your first year anniversary, and just like rolling with it and creating something that was so magical that now this year is like even better.
Well, shout out to Jefferson last year before he went on parental leave, giving me a list of things to do, at least to prepare for the Taste of White Center over the months that he was gone. So at least I had it in my head, and I was able to look over footage from the year prior and heard all the amazing feedback that we got from the community and got from volunteers and from vendors that filled the road, filled the space. And so just using his blueprint and then going, okay, what can I add to this? How can I really expand on this and kind of get rid of those complaints that people had? Using my customer service background, what are the simple ways that we can solve the problem? Make a kids area, bring in vendors to set up tables. And then since it's a community focused event, I want to bring out all the other nonprofits. So if you go to the Taste of White Center, if you went this year, you would notice most of the folks there that are setting up tables are other nonprofits in the area or solidarity groups in the area. My hope being that those people might get a chance to talk to each other for the first time. Or if they haven't, I can go around introducing people. So as I'm doing my laps and stuff, I try to make those contacts, make those moments, because the wealth of community that exists in White Center is unlike any other neighborhood that I've recognized. If I have a problem, if I need 30 foot of cable, there is somebody I can call who can help me. There's a guy who's got a generator. There's a guy who's got, X, Y, or Z. And, it feels like things are coming out of the woodwork, but really it's just your neighbor. It's just the dude 2 blocks down who's like, oh no, I got a solution to that. And getting people together to have that conversation, to recognize game, like, oh, I do this in my community, you do this in our community, we can team up and do something else together. That's my biggest hope from the event. It's great that it's a fundraiser. I know now that the problem that people will not come is not there. People will always show up to the Taste of White Center. Our marketing is top notch. Thanks, Randy. And now my concern is, how do I make sure that there's enough food to go around?
Yeah.
Sponsorship dollars is what fuels this event. And unless we can receive more sponsorship dollars, it's a little bit harder to push the envelope to expand how much food somebody can produce. And we don't, we have a handful of folks that like to go above their 100 that they agreed upon, but we want to make sure that they're being compensated fairly for their time and their work.
Yeah.
I don't want to derail this conversation, but
Do it.
I'm like thinking of this parallel to what Robert's saying about like amounts of food to like what we're experiencing in the food
Oh,
bank right now,
yeah.
especially
Yeah.
with like
Yeah.
federal cuts and other things like that. It's a
Yes.
very similar. Well, it's not a similar struggle, but
Well,
there are parallels.
it's interesting that you bring up the parallels, because I've also, having gone through 2 years of a sponsorship campaign, it's been markedly noticeable who has decided to not sponsor the event this year, or was a little bit harder to get in contact this year, or maybe their funds aren't being released as quickly as they were prior. I mean, there is the larger funding being cut from services, but then there's also just people holding on to their pennies, holding on to their wallet, and even companies doing the same thing, going, oh, I don't want to spend the money because I don't know what the forecast looks like. I don't know if investing in an event like this is really helping us in the long run, but it does, the impacts are there, both at the top and all the way down at the bottom, and it's really, it's definitely felt.
But then, like, we're learning, like, as an organization with this event, as we shift our norms, right? Pay the restaurants to produce the food that they're producing, then, like, community will continue to come out, and they came out in, like, packs this year, right? And that's something that we've been discussing just, like, generally on the relationship building development level in the organization. Is like that is where the solution relationship building is where the solution has always lied, and in the people, because they will show up for you when you show up for them.
Mm-hmm. And that's a perspective that I have as well. As we come into this new space, we come into this area. Jefferson mentioned a handful of restaurants didn't even believe that we were going to pay them years ago. And even now, talking to business owners, talking to people in the community, there is a hesitation. Like, you're a food bank, what are you doing? Going and talking to people about who we are and what we do, there is a bit of hesitation because, maybe their interaction with the food bank in the past hasn't been successful, or maybe there wasn't follow through on account of the staff. And, when I plan these events, when I plan the Taste of White Center, I want to make sure that I'm keeping on contact with all of these these vendors, the restaurants, other community orgs, because I want them to be able to rely on me if they have a question about the event. If they have a question about what's happening here, I want them to go, I can trust the White Center Food Bank. I can trust the person who's making this agreement with me that they're going to come through because they came through last year. Making those long-term connections in the community really starts with how you operate within your work life. How are you operating in a professional level with them when you see them most often?
Mm-hmm.
I also want to shout out the food bank staff that helped us translate the contracts. So we had multilingual contracts to share with the restaurants, and so that also helped build trust with some of the restaurants that maybe we wouldn't be able to communicate with otherwise.
Good call. I'm gonna back up just a little bit to Gabby's comment. We are seeing food shortages here at the food bank, and with the Taste of White Center too, like that parallel. And I'm just gonna place this reminder for listeners, like, food in the US is overproduced. About 40% of it goes to waste. So there's not a shortage of food around the US. It's who has the power and who has access to that food. In a lot of instances is who has the money. The money is the power. So that's a lot of what we're seeing right now is a lot of programs are perhaps getting cut, and that funding is being reallocated elsewhere. With more sponsorship dollars, we can provide more plates to the community, and so just wanted to highlight that as we're in the thick of it. But I guess one important thing that I forgot to mention, and maybe folks don't know, so we do a $500 stipend to each restaurant, and we figure that's about 100 plates. We leave it up to the restaurants, like how much they feel like they can do, like giving them autonomy, like they're the experts in their business, they know what they can handle, and so some restaurants do go over that 100. Um, and some, stay at that 100 level. And so we're like in this growing phase where We want to be able to provide more funding to the restaurants to be able to provide more plates, right? Like up to 250 or something.
I mean, if we can at least get it double it, right?
Yeah.
If each place had 200, that would give people more than a chance to get their favorite meal. What we saw this year is we sold out of tickets at what, 130. So at that point, it becomes almost like an epicenter. Like from the center where the tickets are purchased, the things start to sell out as the further you go out. But if we had, just an extra 100 items at Moonshot or an extra 100 items at Little Woody's, those folks that are like hungry at that moment who want that Little Woody's burger, they might be able to still grab one early on in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I am very excited for our push for next year because wonderful Randy was free this year to run around and shoot promo, shoot video. And my goal is to hopefully put together some sort of supercut that we can send out with our sponsorship package next year so that sponsors can go, oh, that's what the Taste of White Center is. They have a visual of what the event looks like. They can see maybe they could have a banner there or they could have our logo on the menu. It's something that's a bit more tangible for sponsors to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and if any listeners work at a company that does sponsorship, like hit up Robert.
Please holler at me.
You could have your logo here too.
We could talk about you on the podcast.
Oh, we definitely could.
Randy can do a feature on your business on our socials.
Oh yeah, we could throw that on the sponsorship package. Shout out to Alaska, BCU, Nucor, our premier sponsors. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, last year the restaurants started to sell out of food, right? And then it was like, people had bought their tickets and they were like, I wanted to go to this restaurant and now I can't. And I think what was a nice touch for this year, despite selling out early, is like just no ticket sales. Like, sorry. So at least people knew ahead of time before they purchased tickets. And then go to a restaurant and be disappointed. And then some of the restaurants even stayed open and just like completely sold out of food, which is so great.
And other folks, made some sort of special deal for customers coming in. If they had a ticket left over, they can get a hot dog with a purchase of a beer or something like that. And, it gives me ideas moving into next year. To all of the people who came to the Taste of White Center and you were disappointed that you weren't able to use your ticket, I am truly sorry. It is something that I am looking to try to change. It is something that I'm looking to, try out new things. Maybe it's talking with restaurants ahead of time and finding out which of the ones will go beyond so that at least we can guide customers there afterwards, after other places sell out, or is it maybe a different ticket selling process? These are things that I'll have in the back of my head for the next year as I try to plan it out. But I'm sure we'll come to a solution if we're unable to get additional sponsorship dollars. But that'll be my first goal.
And it was like right at 1:31. Robert's like already thinking of like things to improve for next year, or like different ticket sale models to do, or like, planning it all out.
I'm always on. I'm always on.
You are always on.
I can't turn off. But in that, there's a beauty and a not so beautiful thing to that.
Also, I feel like we're missing a call to action around what you were saying around food cost and federal cuts that we were talking about. Where's the call to action for the listener? Like, how can they make the biggest impact to the White Center Food Bank at this moment in time?
I think it's up to the listener what is significant to them. Is it donating $1? Is it donating $100? Is it donating your time? Is it picking up an extra case of Spam when you're at Costco and then donating it to the food bank? I think, yes, the call to action is very important, but it's also something that's significant to the individual, and that looks different for all of us. So I encourage listeners to reflect on what would mean a lot to them and then plug in. And you can plug in at White Center Food Bank, you can plug in at a different food bank or a different organization, but I think we need each other more now than ever, and it's going to take all of us to really move the needle back to even where it was.
With that in mind, I'd also point out that hosting food drives is also great. There's ways to activate your neighbors, activate your friends and family. Just recently, we had an amazing food drive that took place. Shout out to Dragonfly Studios for putting that together. But a handful of exercise studios out in West Seattle did a food drive competition just to help out. We have restaurants that put us onto their ordering list. They're like, what can I order and deliver to you guys when my food comes in? So there's, like you said, what's significant to you. There's different ways to have that impact. And sometimes it doesn't even have to have a cost associated with it, like volunteering your time or setting up a food donation bin in your business. And like you said, yeah, contact whoever your local food resources, or even larger food resources like Food Lifeline, Northwest Harvest. Those folks could also use the help. Again, it's community. We all need to be there for each other. And for us to solve problems, it requires you helping out, just talking with folks and just getting out there.
I met somebody in the Little Woody's Tomo line at the Taste of White
Like how
Center.
bougie of you.
Of course, that's on brand. But anyway, you reminded me that I should give you her card, but she was telling me how her friends had basically kind of like hosted a food drive, like some summer party. It was like they hosted it at their house and they asked their friends to bring a donation for the food bank, and then they would match it. Either, I don't know if it was like monetarily or in food weight or something, but I just think like that's so creative, and it's like a little different, and it doesn't have to necessarily look like that, but there's a lot of different ways to get involved. And like, I think, maybe you're into riding bikes or something, and you can like make a little event with your friends around picking up food or doing something like that. Like we've seen that with a motorcycle club, right? The Jolly Rogers do like this little ride and food drive
And
event.
a bait motorcycle club too.
In a bait, yeah. So I think it just, yeah, you can still use like whatever activity like maybe you're passionate about and still apply it to supporting your community.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if people experience what I experience sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts or the news, and like the federal level just seems like too much too high, and it's hard to frame like what that looks like in my community and how I can impact. And I think the message that I've heard that feels really important is like when you hear about cuts that will impact food on any level, even if they don't say cuts to food banks, like food banks are impacted, and you have one in your neighborhood. One, if you're experiencing like cuts to your benefits, so you're getting less benefits, there's a food bank in your neighborhood that you can come shop at. And then similarly, if you're hearing about cuts, and you have something to give, whether that's time, money, energy, what have you, there's a food bank in your neighborhood that you can give that to.
Yeah. I think I know so many of us are experiencing this, right? Like, yes, the federal stuff is like so big and sometimes you feel so small. But I think at least, my experience, like getting to be a part of White Center Food Bank, like we get to be a part of something bigger than us, and we also get to see like community in action. We get to see, even if it's just on a small scale during distribution, like what it can look like to like truly live in community and like think of shared prosperity for everyone that comes into White Center Food Bank and a sense of belonging too. So I think if listeners are also kind of feeling deflated, like just come by for a tour even, or just, get to experience kind of this magic of White Center Food Bank. It gives me hope in the future.
Yeah, there's a sense of, with the scale of things on a federal level, it's really hard to lose yourself to it. But um, and then especially with the media and with the news and social media, you become inundated with all the horrors, all the horrible things that could be happening. And you start to lose out on the perspective of what is my immediate impact? What can I actually interact with? If I feel the need to do something good, what can I do that's good? Um, like you said, food banks is a great place to go. But the idea that I think that people need to pay attention to is that we can really only deal with what's in front of us, right? Worrying about the things on the federal level, yes, let's have that conversation, but let's also table it for a second and let's worry about what's right in front of us. What's stopping us from feeding people in our own neighborhood? What's stopping us from solving a problem? There is an immediacy that exists in your reality, in your life, that people need to touch with. And I think that having access to the good in the world, like the food bank, being able to come in here and spend some time doing good, or at least interacting with people doing good, or actively not tearing each other apart, is really rewarding. And shout out to Heather, our amazing volunteer manager. It's been amazing to meet volunteers who have joined our team who have been lost. Maybe they lost their job, or they are in the middle of a career switch because they didn't like their old job, and then they just felt so much weight coming in here. And then after a few months, they're like really happy and they're excited, and you can see that the humanity is there again, and they're happy to be around people, and they're happy to be to doing something of service, and it kind of helps them restructure, their perspective on things that might have been tarnished due to their previous experiences, either with nonprofits or within the working world.
Community's important more now than ever. We even had some volunteers that like moved away, but now we're thinking of coming back to Seattle, and even like name dropped like I miss being at White Center Food Bank. Like that's a big part of like where I feel community, and like I miss that in this other place that I've been living. Like I haven't been able to find that, and that means so much that, someone continues to think of us even after being away, so much so that it's like almost a draw back to the area because of what it has done for them.
Agreed. I would say selfishly, don't you think that like we're all here because we found a sense of belonging, like community at the White Center Food Bank?
Oh, for sure. That's absolutely why I'm here. And I think maybe last episode or maybe the one with Elliot, I had talked about, kind of White Center and White Center Food Bank. Like my favorite thing about this community is like that sense of belonging that you get.
Without any frills. It's just you are who you are, and that has always been the case for White Center. In my experience, having grown up in West Seattle, my grandmother lived over on Ambaum and 128th. This whole section was a place where, I mean, a prep or a goth or, any kind of person could walk down the street and go into a restaurant and enjoy a beautiful meal and not be harassed by the people around them, or be, othered because they're dressed differently. Like there's no expectation that you have to be a certain type of individual. You just need to be willing to be kind, willing to grow and get to know people. And that's what I really appreciate about the confluence of cultures that exist in White Center. Everybody is out from outside of White Center, and when you're finally here in the mixing pot, like you can't tell the difference because you're all mixed up. And there's a beauty in that. And I do think that the sense of community that comes out of White Center is tangibly different than other places in Seattle.
Yeah, White Center has made Seattle in general very fun to me because being in White Center has been like one of the only places that I've just gotten to be me, without any sort of like label. I get to just be Carmen. And I probably have shared this on the podcast too, but I love that about White Center. And I often think about just, earlier you were talking about like the neighbor that has the generator or what, and I think about how White Center has suffered like this intentional disinvestment, right? And like almost how community members like only had each other because nobody else was like willing to step in for the community, and so they've just had to take care of each other, and like that's very much like what you get when you walk into White Center Food Bank is like this sense of like being cared for in a way that you don't get to feel in a lot of other spaces.
But can we talk about the art behind us?
Yes, that is on the list.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about it now? We can talk about it now. So, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so there is art on the wall behind me. What I want to say, like January, December this year, Donna from Puffy Pandy started working with the White Center Business Alliance to put together the Rat City Art Walk. And I wanted to be a part of it as an artist. I want to support artists elsewhere and get them lifted up and have them have a space. And I thought to myself, well, I think the food bank would be a good spot for it. It's the idea of this space, the building, is to be a community hub, and it gives us another opportunity to have a touch point with the community that's not food related. That's not a call to action. It's just another moment to get to know us, and make that connection. On the wall behind me is Yolanda Gallery's art. Um, Jefferson, if you could provide some more info on this artist. You had more interaction with her than I did.
Yeah, for sure. Yolanda, we got in touch through the great gallery in the Central District called Art Noir, um, and really wanted to highlight a Black artist for our Juneteenth distribution in the month of June. So I know the director over there reached out and they sent us a list of a few different artists to contact. And Yolanda replied right away, said, I'm really interested. Um, and so he set up a telephone conversation, and it was pretty cool just how things aligned because she said, I grew up going to food banks. I never thought I'd see my art on the wall in a food bank, and what a cool idea. And I said, yeah, it's the first time I've ever heard of a food bank that's doubles as an art gallery. So there's just a lot of excitement from her part and really appreciated. Um, she brought different pieces with, for folks that can't see the camera, but just that different sizes and different price points so that they were accessible to different folks. And she sold a couple and has gotten some special orders from a few other folks. So she's very excited. And we hope to continue this for the rest of the year, at least every third Thursday, having art on the walls.
Yeah, it's an event that it's been slowly growing each month. Donna does a little bit more to try to bring in new artists or get new restaurants or people to be involved. And I'm trying to find out ways to activate the space to help artists a little bit more because people are like, wait, the food bank is a part of the art walk? You're not, you're so far off the map that we didn't expect you to be somebody to host art. And so I'm trying to craft ways to bring in more people into the space. But I also think that consistency is key, especially with trying out something new, and at least trying it out for a year to see what develops from it, to see what relationships develop. Already, an amazing connection with Yolanda. We're going to be reaching out to her for, additional artists to bring into the space in the future. And, it all builds on itself. It just consistency, consistency, consistency. The first time we had the art walk here, I think I saw 5 people come through. The next time, 10. Then the next time, 8. And, it kind of goes up and down. But each time I have a conversation with somebody I didn't have before. And we also get an opportunity to have other nonprofits set up tables. So we've had King County Local Services here. King County Metro has showed up. We have White Center Solidarity. Every month we'll be here to chat about what they've got going on and invite people to their potlucks. So to me, it's just another community access moment. It's just like a little mini taste of White Center. And the moving forward into next year, I'm hoping that we have a wealth of artists that I can bring out to the Taste of White Center and have an artist gallery. Those are parts, like all little building blocks along the way.
Yeah, it's really exciting because in these conversations we had before we moved into the building, we really wanted to make sure that this space was activated in a lot of different ways, not just during our distribution hours, but hosting community meetings or events or whatever else. And I just love the participation in the art Rat City Art Walk. Jefferson and I were talking about something else today, but art isn't, I think you said this, he said art isn't usually thought of as a basic need, but art is. It's so important to so many of us in different ways, right? At this table in this conversation, to people listening. And art really is for everyone. And so that's what I love about the artists too, is them making different price points for different types of people. Because, I think a lot of times you might think why is a food bank hanging up, art for a price? But it's you don't know what that could mean to somebody. Somebody could see that and be moved by art. Maybe this is a piece that would give them joy in whatever they're going through. And, maybe it might take them some time to save up, but
or they know somebody who
right.
can immediately purchase it. Or, the idea of limiting somebody's access to art based off of our assumptions of what they have going on in their life is very limiting, not just to us, but to them and to the world around us. We live in a very bland, very corporate box, white walls, everything is kind of plain. And when you come to places of service, be it a hospital, be it a food bank, you're kind of met with these blank walls. You're met with a cold indifference, and having just a splash of color, like the community wall or the wall, art on the wall, really, I think, makes a difference. I know it would make a difference in my day, having worked into some pretty beige hallways and some dark rooms. Just having one piece of art just to go, have a moment of thought that is interrupted. You get to interrupt your normal processes, which is nice.
We're trying to be liberated gatekeepers here at White Center Food Bank. No gatekeeping. But this art is so awesome, and it's been such a fun way to, I don't know, put something really beautiful on the walls and having it rotate and having it be really interesting. So this wall here, there's normally a table here for distribution, and it's our free table. So items that we want to go by the end of the day. So it'll be kind of random, maybe stuff with a short shelf life, or we get some
books, magazines, crosswords.
Yeah, so no limit. And so it's a high visibility table, and so I think it's just a great placement to showcase the artist's work.
And coming right up, next, so this episode will come out the same week as our next art walk on July 17th. Artist TBD, but we got some good prospects, and we're going to have ice cream, a little ice cream social, open house. Come on
Yum.
down to the food bank to eat some ice cream, see some art, and learn more about the White Center Food Bank.
5 to 7, right?
That's right.
Great. And there's a rat outside of the food bank door. Have we named the rat yet?
You know what? I actually should reach out to Donna about that because I know that everybody else has a rat, but I don't know if everybody's named the rat
Yeah.
or if it's one rat and we're supposed to imagine that he's like bouncing around all places.
And it's an
Oh.
inflatable rat.
It's an
Yeah, I
inflatable
was
rat.
gonna say.
Oh,
So for folks that if you don't know, the first time I went to art walk, there was like Josh at Can Bar was like blowing up their rat, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And he's like, oh, it's for the art walk, so it's like a person sized inflatable fake rat.
Randy can drop a picture somewhere. I do want to ask everyone, like, tell me some other like, it can be from this year, but some favorite memories from the Taste of White Center that we haven't talked about.
For me, it's the opportunity, both last year and this year, to share with my friends and my family what I do. I've worked so many jobs where you would have to be a customer at my workplace to understand, what I do for a living or like how I interact with my work and with something that I hold with so much pride. So getting to see my friends smiling and excited and like, I'm doing my routes, I'm doing my work, but I get little glimpses of my friends' faces as they're trying shaved ice, or I see them walking out with a bubble tea or a big banh mi. That was like what I think the most rewarding parts for me is being able to go like, yeah, I did this and my friends get to enjoy it. So does my family. And it's really cool to see, just to see it all come together.
Some of like my friends wouldn't necessarily go to like a typical fundraiser, but have come out to the Taste of White Center. So that's been really fun. I can think about the first year standing in line for Tomo. I don't know that I had dinner there yet. So it was like my first time to be able to try Tomo. I remember selling tickets to lines and lines of people in past years. Um, yeah, I have so many good memories.
It's cool to see like White Center being put on the map. I feel like White Center is very low key still, and just seeing the amount of people attend Taste of White Center over the last 3 years of my experience has been so like fulfilling and just seeing like the people enjoy the rich cultural diversity we have in our community. And so um and yeah, just seeing just to activate the downtown core of White Center and supporting local businesses is great.
Oh, also my last memory is last year watching your husband, Carmen's husband, eat a puffy pandy ice cream sandwich and being really jealous. And it was the first thing I went to this year.
Randy came in clutch for me and like randomly brought me one while I was waiting in the Tomo line. I was like, what?
You got an ice cream sandwich delivered to you while you
I
were waiting in the
did.
Tomo line?
That's some ED privilege I didn't even know existed.
For me, got similar to Gabby, so many great memories. 4 years of just really cool experiences to see our neighborhood activated. But I think my favorite memory from this year was my son Ruben uh, running up, his face covered in sh- different foods that he had eaten. But so excited about the shave ice he got from Patrick's and the pizza he got from Mario's and the hot dog I think he got from the fish sticks food truck. I mean, he had eaten er, to his heart's desire all of the things he loves, and then was all sweaty from bouncing on in the kids area, and he just said, "Dad, I love the Taste of White Center," and just he had had such a great time, And I couldn't, I was working, so I couldn't really spend all that much time with him in that moment. But just like, I know that he wasn't the only kid that had that experience. And so that it's such a family friendly, welcoming environment. Um, and then also this year, the breakdancing competition, there was a new addition. Um, Shout out to Luke and Shonef and the breakdancers. It's just a really really cool thing to add to the, and I think it's going to become an annual tradition too. So that's pretty awesome.
Speaking of the breakdancing battle, that's a really great moment of community, right? Luke came out and told Jefferson and I, we do this breakdancing battle every year. I'd love to have it at the Taste of White Center. I've already submitted permitting. I already have a very specific plan of action, and it does not include a breakdancing stage. But Mason's Tim's Tavern's parking lot. I know Mason, the owner, so I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, can we put the breakdancing stage there?" Looped in Oliver, who would have the stage. Looped in Luke, and Oliver said to me, he goes, "I really appreciate that we're doing this all together. That White Center's coming together to put this on." And the day of, the fire deputy was a little nervous about the stage because it wasn't in the plans, but it wasn't on the street, so technically it wasn't necessary to be in the plans. And he worked with Luke and with Oliver to set up the stage in just a way. And then that's when the Highline Fire Department showed up, which I want them there just because I like the fire trucks. I love fire trucks. I don't, I know my friends love them. It's really cool to see. But when they pulled up, I was like, could we just have them monitor the situation? They're like, that sounds great. Let's do that. The finding a solution to the problem in the moment and watching 3 community members all kind of work together towards a common goal that I could just walk away from and go, I know that they're going to figure it out, and I know it's going to be safe, and I know it's going to look good. So shout out to everybody for coming through on the breakdancing battle. It was really cool to see everybody come together and work on that in the moment.
I don't know if you all know this, but Luke, who we should give him a shout out, is DJ for him. So he DJs around the area, but he actually, so the B-Boy Jam is like the Burien breakdance battle, and it's like origin story is out of like Burien Parks and Recreation, where he originally held those events. And are you gonna say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, and the Goodfoot Art Collective are the
Okay.
kind of organizers as well.
Yeah. So anyways, all to say that like it was really it was cool to see him. I don't know if it was a year or two ago, show up at a fundraiser, and I was like, yes, of course Luke would be the DJ for the White Center Food Bank. And then like seeing it all come together, and like he with ease, without bureaucracy or little bureaucracy, got to like have this event that has existed for years pop up in White Center and now have a new home. I think it's super special.
That's so cool. I didn't know that about that.
It's a pretty interesting trajectory for that event to show up on our doorstep, and then having conversations with Luke after the event, asking him how it went, and then going, okay, well, now I know what you need. I can plan for this in the future. I can permit for this. We can have this conversation as to what exactly you need, because I want to continue to include them. It just makes sense. It's fun. It's another fun little thing for people to do.
Yeah.
The day of.
What's your favorite memory, Carmen?
Yeah, so I also have so many. Of course, seeing the event grow year to year is pretty special. Well, I have 2, one from last year and one from this year. Last year, I think it was posted on Reddit somewhere that basically one tasting event in Seattle was out and the Taste of White Center was hot. And I just loved seeing that and like being included in a Reddit thread. I was like, oh my gosh, we've
Who
made
found
it.
the Reddit thread?
I think Robert.
I think it was Mike.
Oh, maybe it was Mike.
Of course, it was Mike.
He commented on it too.
Oh, you're calling him out.
Shout out to our
Now
operations
everybody
director.
knows. Mike's username on Reddit.
He's the only Redditor that I know that actively comments. Like the only Redditor I know in person that actively comments on things. It's really fun.
I might know somebody else that does too. But yeah, so seeing that and seeing just like even the comments this year about it, like people were excited. They were, overall pretty happy. But what I liked about this year and like kudos to you for organizing such a great event. Like I didn't have anything to do. But I made myself useful, I think, and I was like I was the food gopher for some of the staff, which I absolutely loved being able to bring some of the food to the team that was working the event. So at least, I mean, number one, like you're fed, and then number two, like you're also getting to eat some of the food from the event that you're putting on. So that was a highlight for me this year.
That's exactly the role that I was hoping for. Both yourself and Mike, I gave the autonomy to try to help out, just so that you could fill in spaces. I'm sure that there would be something that would come up that you go, oh, I can help out with that. And I think being a food gopher was very helpful because it gave me a chance to actually eat something.
Yes.
Because otherwise, I just keep running around until the day's
Right.
over.
Right. Like, and so I was like, oh, this is also a perfect job for me. Hello. Like, good job.
Thanks, Carmen, for hooking me up with the Tomo slider, Tomo Lil Woody slider. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. The line was very long for that one, so I also feel for people that had to wait in line for that, but that it is what it is. And I really liked being able to just talk to people in line too. Learning, have you been to this event before? How did you learn about it? And yeah.
Hearing people say, what are you going to try, or looking,
Mhm.
exchanging maps and going, oh, we stopped there. I just came from over there. Oh, you got that big banh mi from where? Oh, I can get that for lunch. It's fun to just random comments just between people that may not have had that conversation before.
Mhm.
Um, a volunteer, I think it was her first time volunteering at the event, but she walked past me and she goes, everybody's really well behaved. And I was like, because we're all here to have fun. White Center knows how to party, and definitely for the Taste of White Center, it's great to see, it just feels like a hangout, like a really big hangout.
Yeah.
And it feels like all the people from like White Center events like blended together. There's like a layer of folks that would go to Pride, a layer of folks that would do the block party, like everybody's kind of piled in.
Well, so we talked about our upcoming event, July 17th, the Art Walk, Ice Cream Social, stop through White Center Food Bank 5 to 7. Do we have anything else coming up in July?
Off the top of my head, nothing in July. We will have a donor recognition event in August, and
Yes.
then our next larger event will be the fall fundraiser, which we'll have more information coming out soon about that. But keep an eye on our website where we will have a page about that, and
Do
it
you
will be
wanna
updated.
drop a date for that?
Oh, 10/10/25.
October
From
10th.
October 10th from doors will open at 5:30 and end around 9 p.m.-ish. So it'll be a nice little dinner soiree.
A
At
soiree.
the same place.
Same place, Seymour Community Center down in South Park. It's a, yeah, it's a great spot.
It is a really nice space.
Shout out to the Chicano Museum there.
Yes. Well, that's going to conclude episode 10. So make sure you subscribe, and you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch us on YouTube. And then follow us on social media. We're at White Center Food Bank on all platforms. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Thank you.